Good morning.
Good morning.
Give you guys a little insight as we start the off-season process. And really it started yesterday at 7 a.m. Started meeting with players, met with players till about 7 p.m. yesterday. Had a lot of good conversations. Some of those meetings will continue to happen today. And then this afternoon I will meet with the scouting staff upstairs. We'll go through the entire roster by position, hear the scouts, talk about our current roster, stack the players, and have a lot of good discussion into this afternoon. Tomorrow morning we'll do a very similar process, myself and AG, with the coaching staff. Again, go through the whole roster, bring in the position coaches, talk in detail about each player, the vision moving forward for those players. That'll consume most of Wednesday, and then Thursday myself and AG, again, we'll get together in private and talk further detail about off-season planning, what the roster might look like, some of our goals in the off-season, and that'll really kick it off. And I'm excited about the off-season as we go into it. Obviously, the draft capital we have, the cap space, and just being here now a year with AG, working with AG, the staff, getting to learn the staff, getting to learn the players, getting to learn this division. I feel more confident today than ever moving forward with what we have going. And with that, I think we can start questions.
Darren, I think the question on every fan's mind, it's probably the same question that's been asked to every GM before you, is just how are you going to fix the quarterback situation?
Yeah, I understand the question, and that process starts yesterday and today and throughout the week, as we'll have a lot of discussions internally. And I can tell you this, we'll exhaust every option. You know, free agency, the league, obviously the draft, we will exhaust that and have a good solution for the New York Jets.
As far as quarterback, what was the thinking in signing Justin Fields, anointing him the starter, giving him 2 years, $40 million, when he had a 14-30 record as a starter entering the offseason?
Yeah, I think that's a good question. I understand the question. We had a clear vision for Justin, a good plan. Now, obviously, the season didn't go as planned, and that's for many reasons. There's not one person, player, coach, system of why we ended up with 3 games, but that's part of this week's process is of diving in and really reflecting on the season and the lessons learned moving forward.
What is your evaluation of the way the quarterbacks played this year?
Yeah, we're going through that process this week as the whole roster. We're going to evaluate every position on the team. And obviously, we got to be better. We got to be better at several spots, quarterback included.
That's one thing that we'll actually start going tomorrow. And I know the question that you were about to ask. Justin's on the contract. Brady's on the contract. But when it comes to quarterback, listen, we're going to always have the best guy. And that's always been the plan from the beginning. The guys that give us the best chance to win. But to answer your question, he's on the contract.
Hey, G, you obviously need to hire a defensive coordinator now.
Yep.
Here's what are you looking for in that job, and are you prioritizing guys play calling experience? Like, what's kind of your approach?
To give you an overall just perspective on what the plan is, and Mougey just talked about yesterday was all about the players and talking to the players. Tomorrow, I'll be talking to the staff as far as the players are concerned. And at that point, man, that's when I really started to dig into the evaluation of the whole roster, the whole coaching staff, and really start to figure out, like, how can I get better also? And I actually start with that, my own self-reflection. And then when it comes to the coaches, man, I like to be aggressive. I want to make sure that whoever the guy that we do have in, that there's a lot of synergy between me and that coach. And I'm not saying that it wasn't synergy between me and Wilkes. It's just I want to make sure as I go through this process that that's not a step that I don't miss. And it'll be a number of coaches that we take a look at. And Mougey will be a huge part of that because I do respect his opinion, and he has a good eye just for talent in general. And I want to make sure that it's collaborative between all of us, and we just want to get the best guy.
Aaron, when you say synergy, do you mean in terms of how you guys mesh personally or in schematics with
I think that's,
coordinator?
yeah, that has a lot to do with it. Personally, as far as fit, as far as how I see defense being played, all those things are huge because, and I've said this before, compatibility is just as important as coachability. So I want to make sure that we see things the same way, and I want to make sure that we can vibe as far as sitting down and talking about how we see football also.
And then just a quick follow on that is that when you hired Steve, he was someone who's done it before. He was a defense coordinator.
Yep.
How do you balance first-time guy who maybe you have experience with or you believe can do it compared to
Yep.
somebody who has done it before?
Man, that's a really good question, and that's what I'm actually really evaluating as I go through that, is making sure that I'm really thorough on whoever that guy is an experienced guy that's done it before, or is it a guy that hasn't, and do I trust the fact that he can do it? And to me, that's something that I just don't sit up here and say that right now, that I go through the whole process and make sure that the answers that I'm really getting from that whole evaluation will be good enough answers to where I can pick this guy and say, okay, he's going to be the guy that can do it, if that makes sense.
Darren, how long do you think it will take to be competitive, to be respectable?
I believe we can be competitive and respectable right away next year.
What gives you
How-
that? You said,
how
yeah,
could you
what
do
gives you
that?
that confidence? You said earlier this is the most confident. You have more confidence now than ever. What gives you the confidence?
Because I've been here a year, I've learned a lot. We've learned a lot. I've got a clear vision. AG and I, like we said, we talk daily on this roster and the vision in this division. And with the assets we have moving forward, the draft capital, the cap space, I know we're going to continue to build and add good players to the team that are going to help us win.
And let me answer that also. As a rookie head coach, and same thing as a GM, man, going through the first year and really understanding the landscape of everything, like that's a huge deal. I will tell you that right now. And speaking of myself, man, there's a number of things I know that I'll be better at. And again, I'm still doing self-reflection, but I know for a fact there are a number of things. And the confidence that I have in Mougey, the confidence I have in our owner, the confidence I have in myself, the confidence I have in some of the foundational players that we have, that's where the confidence really comes from, if that makes sense. And there is a clear vision. There's a clear plan on how we want to go about doing things. And you match that with Mougey, with our owner, the confidence I have in myself with some of the foundational players that we have, that in itself, to me, gives all the confidence in the world, man, that we're going to go in the right direction. Now, there's some things we got to fix. Absolutely, we know that, and we'll fix those. We'll attack those the way we have to. But overall, man, I have all the confidence in the world that we're going to do the things we have to do to be successful.
Darren, it looked like
Given your defensive background,
Yep.
and given the way your quarterbacks performed this year, why should people feel confident that you have the infrastructure in place to pick a quarterback and develop him properly?
You know what? That's a good question, and we're going to exhaust everything that we can to make sure that we surround our quarterbacks now, and if we get any quarterbacks in the future, right, with the guys that's going to help them. And then again, that's a whole part of, man, making sure that we evaluate everything that's going on, make sure we have the right people here that can help the quarterback. And I'm not saying that we don't have that. That's something that we have to continue to look at. So that's not a question I can sit here and say, listen, we have that. Listen, we're going to evaluate everything, and we're going to exhaust everything to make sure that we surround every one of our guys with the right staff, with the right strength and conditioning, with the right medical to make sure those guys are successful.
Darren, when you watch the season unfold, what do you think went wrong? Why do you think you guys were 3-14?
Like I said earlier, there's not one player, person, side of the ball that's to blame. It's an accumulation of several things, and we're in the process of really having deeper conversations so we get the right answers to that question.
Darren, there was a stretch that, and I know a lot can change with evaluations and stuff between now and the NFL draft, but it was looking like for a while if you guys were picking 4, 5, 6, if you wanted to get up there to draft a quarterback that might go 1 or 2, you're going to have to move a ton of assets to go and do it. I guess the one benefit of the way that this thing kind of bottomed out is that you guys don't have to do that. Like, you're going to be sitting there at number 2. How much of a luxury is that these assets that you worked so hard to accumulate this year, you can theoretically now use them all for yourselves, not trade them to go up?
Yeah, no, it's nice to know we'll be picking at 2. But before we get to the draft in several months, I mean, there's a lot of internal, discussions and studies, and obviously our roster first, and then free agency, then evaluating the draft in depth to know what we'll do with that pick and those assets. But there's no doubt it feels good just to know where you're at it too.
Darren, in addition to the draft capital that you acquired, can you talk about some of the players in season that you got, like Harrison Phillips, Juwan Briggs, Brownlee on the defensive side of the ball, and then Mechie and Mitchell?
Yeah, absolutely. Excited about those players that you just mentioned and that we were able to get those guys. Every one of those additions has its own story and how they got here. Briggsy in particular is a good one. I know in training camp we're exhausting the league, right, for any players at any position that we can add, specifically D-tackle here when we're talking about Briggs. We just added Harrison, but we're looking for some young guys as well. One of our young scouts, Thomas Whitty, identified Briggsy, brought him to our attention. We watched a ton of DTs. I know specifically Briggs, we watched him play last year at the end of the season. There was a game against Miami and Baltimore. He played well. And another one of our scouts identified him as a criteria player, Donovan Doyle, actually. So he hit a few benchmarks for us. And, lucky enough for us, Cleveland had some good depth, so we were able to acquire Briggs. And I think he's been positive for us. And he's got some development growth still to come, but he's been a positive spot, one of the guys we're glad to add.
What is your message to your fan base going forward in terms of why you guys will be successful and why you believe you will be successful?
Did you say Aaron or Darren?
Both you guys.
Yeah.
Aaron?
And I kind of answered that earlier of the fact that, man, there is belief in Mougey. There's belief in Woody. I have belief in myself. I have belief in some of the foundational players that we have here. And listen, we're frustrated about this season. I know the fans are frustrated about it also. But there's also faith that comes with that. And there's also the fact that, man, we went through this whole year to be able to learn a ton about ourselves, about the roster, about how we can get better. And I have total confidence in that. And I want the fans to have total confidence in that also. And it makes a huge difference being in the seat and going through it for a year on both parts.
No doubt.
It makes a huge difference of being able to have those conversations with your owner on the expectations that he have. It makes a huge difference of really knowing your roster going in for a whole year and the must needs and wants that you need to move forward. And being able to have that, being able to get educated on that for a whole year is huge for us. So for our fans, listen, again, there's a vision that we have, and there's a trust that we have in that also. And I expect and I will want our fans to have a total trust in us and being able to do that. And we have to earn that too. And our plan is to do that. And we don't expect to have another season like this here. So we're looking forward to this offseason, looking forward to getting to work and using the draft capital that we have and the money we have in free agency to continue to build what we've been trying to build.
Aaron, if I can just follow on that theme that you just mentioned with Woody.
Yep.
Coming off 3-14, how much of a greater sense of urgency do you feel from ownership to improve next year?
There's always a sense of urgency.
Get more wins.
There's always a sense of urgency. It doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter what the record is, because winning is a sense of urgency in itself. And that's what the plan is to win. And listen, we all know Woody, and we all know he wants to win just like we do. So, yes, that is a sense of urgency from that.
Do you guys want Breece Hall back?
You always.
Breece is a good player. I want as many good players back as we can. Like I mentioned, I met with probably 50 players yesterday. I met with Breece yesterday. Had a lot of good conversations. So we'll go through this process and we'll see how free agency unfolds. But we want to add good players.
For him if need be.
What's that? I won't get into hypotheticals and contracts and things like that. But we'll exhaust all the different options and see where that ends
Aaron
up.
talked about synergy on the defensive coordinator side.
Yep.
Stuff like that. I know you're still evaluating your coaches, but do you think there'll be more changes to your staff to try to get?
I can't answer that just yet. Again, we're still going through that process, so that's a hard question to answer.
Maybe not, Aaron, maybe not necessarily changes in terms of firing, but are you open to adding to the staff, adding coaches or guys that can help the staff?
I think this business, you're always looking to add good people. That can be your roster, that can be your staff. I'm sure Mougey just say the same thing with the personnel. You're always looking to add good people. Whoever you can add that will add value to your organization, man, you always look at that.
Darren, you obviously you guys have been looking at quarterbacks, scouting and whatnot in the college ranks. There's an assumption that Mendoza's going to be number one, but this is more of a general question, not a personnel question, but in your experience, in personnel and doing what you do, do you feel like it's a no-brainer, like everybody thinks it is, that Mendoza's going to be number one, or how many things happen between now and then?
Well, there's still several games to be played, and I think these games will be big and have an impact. And I think there's a process, and every organization is different and in a different situation. But I know that all teams in the NFL are very thorough with their process and have different, tastes or likings or needs at their certain spots. It's always specific, but to a certain case. But yeah, the quarterback evaluation is a full process, I think, start to finish, with obviously the games being the most important, and a lot of that is done, so I understand the question. But there will be some exciting games here still to watch at the end.
Darren, how do you feel about the supporting cast you do have on offense for, if you drop a new quarterback in there, that they'd be able to succeed?
I feel good. I feel good about the offensive line. I think that's the strength of ours. It's a young group. I think with continuity in the group, they'll only continue to get better. I think we got a young tight end. I think we got a good tight end room. Obviously, we got Garrett. We had Brees. Got a good stable back. So I feel good about the offensive support on that side of the ball.
Is there any regret, guys, looking back on not picking a quarterback in the draft last year after seeing Dart or Shuck or even a mid-round flyer? Is there any sense of that was a mistake?
No, I think, as we go through these processes, we do a lot of reflecting and call takeaways and lessons learned, but we're always studying historical, whether it's free agency classes, draft classes, and that's part of the process, and you're hoping to learn and always comparing each class to the others.
Take a couple more. With the state of coming off a year like this, the state of the roster and the way that things look the final 3-4 games this season, how aggressive do you want to be this offseason in order to change things and infuse this roster with talent?
I think everyone wants to be aggressive but calculated with how they attack off seasons, whether that's free agency and the draft, and just knowing your team, knowing your division and what you need. You can say it's an aggressive approach, but it really needs to be a very calculated approach, knowing your resources, your draft resources, your cap, your future cap, and what that might look like. So, we're always going to look to add and kind of know where we might be deficient and where we might need to really add power to compete in the division.
And then how would you assess, it's preliminary, but your early reports that you've had with your pro personnel staff, how would you assess the way this free agent class could shape up, like how it looks early on with the players?
Yeah, it is early, but we've done a lot of work and a lot of studies, but I'm going to wait until I get into that next step of that process. Again, some teams may say it looks strong in this week and others, and it just depends on your needs as well, how
Aaron,
it
what
falls
was
for
your
you.
thinking in hiring Wilkes, who you didn't have a background with?
Yep.
He was fired after 1 year by Kyle Shanahan, and he plays a little different system than you. So what was the thinking?
Well, first off, I've been knowing Wilkes for a while. And to give you a really good background of that whole deal, number one, former head coach. All right, so somebody that I could bounce ideas off of. The 1 year he had in San Francisco was the same defense that we actually ran here. So bringing him here and allowing him to run the same defense. I knew there was going to be some tweaks here and there. To be able to run the same defense, to me, that was intriguing. And that was really the basis behind it. Former head coach, come here, run the same defense. So there has to be any change when it comes to that. And then I can go about managing the team. Obviously, the things didn't work out the way that we want to work out. And, things like that happen. But you try to make a decision, you try to move forward, and then you try to think of the solutions you have to do to fix it. And that's where I'm right now.
Last one, Aaron, when you look back to last year,
yep.
I'm sure you thought about this before today, in recent weeks.
Yep.
Do you think you overestimated the roster? Do you think you overestimated the talent that was on the roster, whether it be that you inherited
Yep.
or going into training camp?
I can't say that. I think it's a lot of, and I said this after the game, I put a lot of it on me as far as just the wins and losses. And I would really say it like that. I put a lot of it on me on the wins and losses, and I have to do a better job. And I'm not going to sit here and blame it on the roster. I'm not going to sit here and blame it on the coaching staff. I'm going to blame it on the guy that's sitting right in front of you, and I got to do a better job. And I'm always say that, and until I get the whole situation situated, then we'll be better, which I know we will next year.
Thanks, everybody.